Good morning, CLUW sisters. This is Adriana Dela Cruz, California State President. It is October 25th, 3 p.m. Pacific time. How are you all doing today? I have with me as our guests, Alma Hernandez. She's from the California Labor Federation. Thank you, Alma, for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
We have Analisa Swan. She's a CLUW sister from the Los Angeles chapter. Also,
hi, hello everyone.
And we have Nicole, my favorite CLUW sister as well, number 2, Analisa Nicole. Thanks for being present. Nicole from Northern Cal, Sacramento chapter. Say hi, Nikki.
Sorry, bad signal. Thank you so much for having me on.
Great, super. So a few days left. How many days?
9.
9 days left.
9.
9 days left before the big day. And we're doing a kickoff last minute push for the No on 22 campaign, the Yes on 16, Yes on 15. Maybe we'll go into the other measures too, just a little bit. But for the most part, why is 22 so important? Well, it challenges the protections that we have, the union protections that we've fought for so vigilantly. And also there's that continued challenge as to whether or not Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash drivers are vendors. Can they organize? Do they deserve as human beings the things that we take for granted sometimes? Mm-hmm. Seriously, folks, don't be fooled. They may sound nice, and they've been spending millions of dollars on this campaign, but ultimately it's not for us. Why? Well, they check out the fine print. They make false promises. They believe that they're saying that they're going to protect the choice of app-based drivers. Now let's talk about that, and let's get some impressions and what is the reality of all these things that they're saying. Please give us a little bit of a backstory, Alma, for those that are familiar with the measure. It's in California, but it'll be nationwide. It's going to affect others in other states as well.
Correct. You know what this year has laid bare is the consequences and impacts of what an economy with a lot of low-wage jobs has. And Proposition 22 is a measure that was put on by Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, and Instacart for Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, and Instacart. They've spent a record-breaking $200 million to try to convince us that this proposition is a good measure. But don't be fooled. I certainly do not buy that they're spending $200 million to improve the lives of their workers. In this moment of COVID-19 and a global pandemic, Proposition 22 does not offer one paid sick leave. It strips away minimum wage, no unemployment insurance. It doesn't allow for the drivers to organize and essentially takes away every basic right that workers have in California. Uber and Lyft waged this war for simply their refusal to comply with the law. The law says that they have to treat their workers as employees, and as employees, they have certain basic rights. And Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash have refused to comply with the law. The Attorney General has sued them. He has won on Thursday, I believe. Analisa, you may know a little bit better since you're an attorney. I think it was Thursday. The courts upheld the injunction requiring the companies to treat their workers as employees. And despite all of this, despite the government, the courts telling Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, and Instacart that they must treat their workers well, Uber and Lyft and DoorDash and Instacart have instead chosen to spend $200 million to try and dupe voters into writing their own law.
So why not spend that $200 million on their employees already, right?
They are trying to cement their business model of exploitation into the Constitution. That's what you started off the conversation around the impacts that, although this is a California fight, the impacts that this has on the national landscape for workers. And what they're trying to do is essentially codify their exploitive business model. And that is why a no vote is so incredibly important. I don't know, Analisa, if you have anything you want to add. You fight for workers every day.
Well, I just want to echo what Alma has said, that Uber and Lyft and DoorDash, they're coming to us like in a wolf in like sheep's clothing. Like they're just flat out lying, saying that it's going to help workers in any way. Basically, what they're trying to do is they're trying to circumvent workers' compensation laws so that when people are injured, they don't have to provide workers' compensation. They're trying to avoid providing health care, which is normally a benefit of employment. They're trying to avoid workers' ability to unionize and organize. They're trying to avoid paying overtime. They're trying to avoid providing meal and rest breaks. And they're doing it to try and avoid what's already been upheld in the courts, determining that the drivers are employees. They're carrying out the essential function of these businesses, which is to drive and provide services. The Uber and these apps, they're trying to claim it's just digital, but we know that's not true. Their main business is to have drivers. And so they should be providing the same benefits that all employees get under California law. And as you said, Alma, this case in California is extremely important because we're setting the precedent for the nation. Everybody is watching California across the country, like how we're going to handle the gig-based economy. So what we do here is super important. Everybody needs to make sure that they vote no on 22.
Yeah, I agree. I agree because if these drivers are being dispatched, it might not be somebody calling on the phone like the yellow cab and saying, here's your pickup. So you're using an app, but you know that you still have people are still calling the company. It might not be from a phone booth using a quarter anymore like they used to in the old days. I'm dating myself, but
That's right.
I'm saying, but I'm saying is that, you still call for a cab, you still call for a Lyft. You might not be calling, you're just using the digital app instead. But they're still making the money.
Right.
And they're still dispatching you, and then you didn't create that, right? So
Yeah.
they're the brainchild behind it. So I think it has to do with control. Correct me if I'm wrong, Analisa, but it has to do with control.
Yeah, the control, the amount of control, and is the what they're providing in the course and scope of what the employer does. Does it provide a benefit to the employer? I would say all those things are yes, clearly.
Right.
Correct.
And I would say too that Uber and Lyft, they're putting a lot of pressure on their so-called non-employees to support 22. And I mean, the amount of control that they exert over the people driving for them, that they have to meet certain standards to even be drivers, that is control. That's employer control, that they have that influence and ability to set what insurance, how many, if you have a good driving record or not, they have them sign agreements to be drivers for them. So I would say, they're definitely exercising control.
So what are we looking at? Should we not get the vote? What's the result? So, this company has been sued. The government says you have to treat them like employees. So why challenge and put a measure on? How did that happen? How did it even get, how were they allowed? I would say that they probably got petitioners to be able to do that.
That's right. So what they did is they spent between $5 and $7 million to pay signature gatherers to put on Proposition 22 on the ballot. Over last summer, they filed it in August, understanding that, knowing that the law was telling them that they needed to treat their workers like employees. And so then they hatched this pretty elaborate plan around corporations writing new laws for themselves. And one of the pieces of Proposition 22 that is most disturbing, outside of the fact that it codifies worker exploitation, is that for the first time ever, it requires a 7/8 vote of the legislature to make any change to the ballot measure, which we've never seen before. We've looked back through the archives in California history, and there has never been a requirement for a 7/8 vote of the legislature for anything. And so what you are doing is, so what Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, Instacart are trying to do is not only write their own law, but then also prevent government from ever making any changes to it. I find it ironic that as a company that says that it needs to be innovative and it needs to remain flexible, puts such a stringent requirement on making any changes to their model. So it is very ironic, but that's one of the many disturbing things of Proposition 22. And again, as I agree with Analisa, we need to vote no on Proposition 22.
Yeah, this is looking like Animal Farm and an Ayn Rand book all over again. I mean, I'm thinking to myself, Orwell wasn't that far off when he said, the corporations, they're going to take over.
Correct.
So, in fact, there's a TV show about that too. The right.
And what's particularly disgusting, they don't want to even pay minimum wages when these are companies raking in billions of dollars. So, I mean, it's exploitation. Yeah.
And also, the tax laws for them as well. They're correct. And not to mention the challenge that we have for the November presidential election. That's as right. To, almost saying that it's okay that you don't pay us or Amazon or other corporations that are making trillions now.
Correct.
We've gone beyond billions to trillions of dollars. And yet somehow or another, we had to have our hat in hand, humbling ourselves to get an extension on that HEROES Act, right?
Right.
And it's shameful. I'm just going to say it, ladies, nationwide. It's shameful that we as individuals and workers, mothers, daughters, grandmothers, children, and the people that we support and rely on us as caregivers, head of households now, right? Equality for all. How is it that we do our best? We try to do what is right. That could be seen as something else, because we know we're union women too, right? We get challenges every day just by existing and being who we are.
Right.
But to say that it's okay for corporations to make that much money without giving back to those that are customers and employees, and I hear a lot about family this and family that. Well, I'm sorry, but you're not treating me like family.
That's right.
So what you can do better, and commerce is allowed. It's America after all. We're not saying don't be a business owner, don't be a success, but just remember how you got there and who helps you get there. The CEOs, CFOs, the rest of them that make millions of dollars, okay? Without workers, without employees, without support staff, without those individuals that actually do the work, you don't have that going for you. Mm-hmm. So it really hurts me that they're looking at the almighty dollar. And because they got told no, and because they got a slap on the wrist saying, no, I'm sorry, you got to do what the letter of the law says, because you shouldn't be the exemption to the rule. Well, now they're making an exemption for themselves. They're essentially buying an exemption because they got petitions, they bought the votes, or they bought those that said, yes, let me put it on the ballot. And then now they're trying to sucker us into voting yes for something like that. Right. And because we don't have as much money to spend on a campaign, we don't have billions of dollars, millions of dollars, that this could happen. So I hope that the people, those people, that we're the people, just vote with their hearts and say that if you don't have a choice anymore, 7/8 to be able to turn this around, there is no choice. And that's just one measure. There's more measures out there.
That's right.
So did we cover everything on 22? What else are they doing besides, my concern is that do the Uber Lyft drivers and who's involved? This is a question for Nicole. Nicole, do these drivers not know what's going on?
I mean, honestly, I think that there's only a certain percentage of people that really take the time to be educated about what these bills mean, right? And a lot of people just feed into the propaganda. And the internet age has been super great for getting a lot of information out there, but it's not all good information. And so, I've actually talked to a bunch of drivers who are like super for this proposition because they just don't quite understand what that means for them. And I think that that's a big problem. And I think the amount of money that they're spending on this proposition is going to give them a pretty good shot at having it pass.
And Adriana, SEIU's been working with over 55,000 drivers on the ground, both local SEIU 721, SEIU 1021 in the Northern California, have been organizing with these drivers. And what you find is that they tend to, at first blush, want to fall for the propaganda. But then once they realize, wait a minute, this is actually taking things that I have under the law. They all understand that it's a no vote. The challenge has been that these companies have refused to comply with the law since its inception, right? So these drivers, a lot of them didn't actually realize, oh, wait, I am entitled to a minimum wage. I am entitled to unemployment insurance. I am entitled to sick leave under the law, because the companies have simply refused to give it to them. And we live in a country where that is okay, where billion-dollar corporations can say, you can work, we can exploit you for your labor, but we refuse to follow the law and give you your basic rights. And again, once the drivers realize that, it's a very sharp turn to the no side, and they're actually out phone banking and texting. They've texted over 10 million or getting close to texting 10 million California voters. These are just rank and file drivers, defending their basic rights to try to oppose Proposition 22.
Yeah, well, it does create a loophole, and they'll continue to exploit these workers for profit, right? I mean,
Right.
what they're doing it for. It's for profit. It's not a nonprofit. I don't see them giving away millions of dollars. They're spending millions so that they can keep what they have.
That's right.
So why are they refusing the drivers the benefits that are required by law? Because like you said, you mentioned they get sick leave, unemployment insurance, and health care, right? These are the guarantees that we have. And also the minimum wage earnings. So let's talk about that. This is something that they might not be aware. This will go down to the guaranteed wage of $5.64.
Yeah, right. And let me tell you a little bit about the why. So it's the ballot measure actually only pays them when they are on their way to pick up a rider, and when they have the rider in the car. It does not pay them right now. The companies are asking them to sanitize their car. Obviously, we're in a pandemic, so they're asking them to wipe down after every ride. They're not getting paid for that time. Every minute that they're waiting that they're on the app and waiting to be engaged, they don't get paid for any of the wait time. So when you take all of that into consideration, that's when they only make $5.64 an hour. And why are these companies do this? They want to save the money off the backs of workers that every other business in California provides. Every other business in California pays for these benefits for their workers. And some of the workers, we pay into unemployment insurance. And that's, at the end of the day, it's all about their bottom lines. Again, no one can convince us, right, that they're spending $200 million because they want to help their drivers.
Right. And so, those cleaning products cost money. At least now they cost
That's
more.
right. Right.
And, is Uber reimbursing them for the fuel that they use?
No, there's no reimbursements. Where drivers have to go out of pocket. They actually Lyft has a website where the drivers can purchase PPE and sanitation wipes from the company. It is.
So rather than saying, here's it. Thank you for being such a dedicated employee. Here's something that'll protect you from getting sick or even dying. But
that's right.
Say, you know what? You got to pay for it.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Any which way you're paying for it. It's
right.
Forcing them to work more than probably the 40-hour work week, right?
Yeah, you're not an independent contractor if your employer is telling you how to sanitize your vehicle and like what the cleanliness standards have to be. I mean, I think also, I'm sure they're trying to avoid class action litigation for wage and hour. And I'm not an employment attorney. I'm a workers' compensation attorney representing injured workers for California workers' compensation. So I can't speak to what lawsuits may have been filed, but just generally, you see that these employers are trying to avoid providing the benefits that an employee would have, which are the being paid for the time that you're having to wait while you're on the job, and driving, and probably also reimbursement for the wear and tear on their vehicle too, which would normally be something reimbursed by an employer.
That's right.
Well, the cost of medical care is going to be put on the responsibility of the workers, right?
That's right.
Because
Yep.
it's not like they're going to get benefits and contributions like we do, because we bargained that into our contract.
Right. That's right.
So, let's talk about organizing. This keeps them from organizing.
That's right. So this measure actually prevents them from organizing and actually takes it a step further. If workers wanted to get together and create an organization to represent them, that would require a 7/8 votes of the legislature. So it is the union busting tactic of the 21st centuries for these large corporations, is how not only are we going to deny workers the right to collectively bargain, we're also going to put laws in place that make it impossible for them to ever gain that right. It is such an overreach. And again, a precedent that establishes for the country that is anti-worker and exploitive.
Yeah, and doesn't it also discriminate against immigration status for drivers too? Don't they?
It actually, the measure stays silent on it. So because we're in California and immigrants here can apply for a driver's license regardless of their immigration status, it is. I would say I wouldn't know how it impacts them, but the measure itself stays silent.
Well, I'm all for undocumented individuals to have a driver's license.
Right.
Because
That's right.
that way they can purchase
insurance and drive safely. That's right.
Exactly. Well, one of the things that I don't think that in terms of trainings that they even give them any now, or it's very limited. But certainly, for those that get hurt on the job, you don't have, like Analisa was saying, you don't have the full protections that you do.
That's right.
So just being denied the ability to be able to organize in this day and age, it just baffles me. That again, it goes with corporations being exempt, that they think they're essential. And how can they have that continued mindset that we need them more than they need us? Because without drivers, without employees, without anyone to be supportive, they're just an application. May as well be, some game on the internet.
That's right.
Because it wouldn't be full of use. But also that has to go on with us as the consumer. It's not all about the drivers. They need our support too, right?
Correct.
So if you're using it, we've got to say no on 22, ladies. You hear that? No on 22. We don't want to set this as a precedence unto the law, because once they start on one area of commerce, they'll ebb their way into other areas, and we've seen that with Janice already.
Right.
So and then the appointment, as we were talking offline about the woman who's about to be another Supreme Court leader. But as I said before, even a woman, despite your gender, if you're anti-union way of life, then you're not my friend. Because we died for the things, everything that we fought for. People have died, they've gotten injured, they've gotten hurt, and not just one, sometimes dozens, sometimes hundreds, and for many, many years, until this gets corrected, until finally it becomes so inhumane that those voters decide to say, we just can't let this happen anymore. So this is it. Here we are again. A lot of things that is at stake. I know you've heard that a lot during this election year, but this is serious stuff. So no on 22. All right, if you want to know more, there's a website. Tell us about that, Alma. What would you like us to do besides vote on 22? Where can we go get information?
I just realized I had a virtual background, so I switched it to my no on 22. So for more information, you can always visit the California Labor Federation of Labor website. They have not only the ballot measure for the information for 22, but also all of the ballot measures that our labor brothers and sisters across the state have taken positions on. As I think Adriana has said, I'm looking up the website right now because I don't know it off the top of my head.
Well, it always reminds me of noon, like high noon. It's a shootout.
Right?
Standoff. Here we go. NOON.
There you go.
Right?
Yep. NOONCA prop22.com.
Okay, one more time.
NOON noon CA prop22.com.
Okay, ladies, you heard it. You heard it from the Californians here. If it hurts us, it's going to hurt you. It's only a matter of time. Right?
That's right.
Thank you very much, Alma. Thank you, Analisa and Nicole, for talking about Prop 22.